So welcome everybody. We're having this beautiful final session, purpose guiding session with Dave Klaus, who has finished a little over 4 or 5 months worth of work exploring his purpose. Dave, I'll introduce him a little bit. We've known each other for quite some time through the Mankind Project. We've sat in the same circle together. We're part of the same Burning Man community. And so I know him more than just as a purpose guide. He's unique in a lot of ways. He's a public defender. He's a community leader. He is a devout Zen practitioner and kind of say layman's philosopher. He reads a lot of, big books with big words in them that have big concepts and big implications. Very, very curious, open explorer of soul. So Dave, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon.
So let's dive in, Dave. Since we began our work together, what have you noticed in terms of your health?
I've made some big gains in my health, and I've always pretty fit, but what I've noticed is really a recommitment to the sacredness of my body, and that's showing up in the way I eat. I've really cut back on substance and intoxicant use, and including coffee even. And I've really increased my fitness in terms of walking and biking, and more than from a place of task, but just because I like it and I like the way I feel in my body.
Yeah, awesome. And has that done anything in terms of sense of peace, relaxation, or energy? If you notice anything there?
Yeah, it shows up, I think, mostly in that my body is much more relaxed. I've experienced a lot of back pain and back spasms in my history, and I've had none of that this year.
Wow.
Literally none. To the point I don't even get that stiff anymore. And I'm noticing that when I do get stiff, that with some kind of intentional meditation or some yoga or just some light movement, that I can release it. And it feels like my body is kind of free of, or more free of, unconscious contraction. And that's what was happening to me a lot when I was having spasms.
Wow. Great. Awesome.
Yeah, it is. That was a big one.
So how has your marriage evolved? How has your experience of love shifted since we began work?
Yeah, I've been married for 19 years, and so that's a long time. And we've gone through many, ups and downs in our marriage. And I noticed in the last doing this work that my quality of listening is really improved, and my quality of unconditionally loving my wife and also my kids. Even when they piss me off or irritate me, but to really just love them for who they are and not to put such a need for them to be some way different than they are, to really see them and listen and hear what's going on and engage with that person rather than some story I have.
Awesome. Can you say a little bit more about like how you're relating, inside your family with this kind of new purpose or soul awareness? Like anything show up?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is I'm feeling less distracted, and I'm very much prone to distraction, and whether it's my phone or Facebook or internet, to-do lists. I can get distracted easily. And I'm noticing a much more grounded, centered experience the last several months. And so that shows up with my kids in that when I'm playing backgammon last night with my son, I'm really playing backgammon. I'm not thinking about other stuff. I'm not wondering what time it is or what I need to do next. I'm just playing backgammon. And when I'm talking with my wife and having a conversation, whether it's on the phone or in person, I'm really listening to what she has to say. And there's a connection and a transfer of energy that feels much clearer and much healthier, as well as just cleaner than it has in some time, and it's been a big benefit to us.
Wow. Can you say a little bit more about how about, Anya and Enzo's and Alicia's experience. Like, I mean, what do they get now that wasn't there before? Like, how has it affected them individually?
Yeah. Well, what they've told me is supports what I just said, which is that I seem more present, I seem less distracted, more. I'm a pretty even-tempered person in general, but just more, I guess, more gentle,
Mm,
and also that I'm around more. Like I've just noticed I've been home more, and that part of that is because I've been really setting better boundaries around
mm,
how I commit my time and making choices around what I really want, which, in my life, what I want is connection, and the most powerful connection I have is with home with my family.
mm,
So that's really become a nourishment and a homing beacon for me, which is different from the old days when I had a lot of FOMO and a lot of sense of grasping and I'm missing out or something. And so
mm, mm.
that's been really a shift. That's been an interesting one. And I've
Yeah.
been doing a lot more writing, which involves being at home, and it's kind of part of that, I think, too.
Mm,
Being able to take a seat as a writer, which means by definition I'm home and
yeah.
doing, I'm not out and about, but seeing how that's really a benefit to me and others.
Mm. Wow, that's great, Dave. So I want to hear more about this kind of warrior energy, this kind of saying no so that there's more room for the yes.
Yeah.
What you're really committed to, like, has you know, yeah. Can you share a little bit more about
Yeah.
how this work has
So,
affected others?
yeah, this is a big one for me. I'm 48 years old, and I think my biggest wound is around feeling like I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of love. And so I've always been an overachiever, an A student, get it, and I've always tend to overcommit and take on a bunch of stuff. I never want to say no to anybody because there's a part of me that fears that if I say no, they're not going to like me as much, or they'll be disappointed in me. And that's led to quite a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, disconnection with my family at times, as well
Mm,
as just me getting resentful and grouchy and
yeah.
burning out on stuff. Um, what's come to me this summer, really, especially, is seeing how saying no is also a way of saying yes. Because as I say no to one thing, I'm saying yes to another thing. And that can be as simple as I say no to one activity, which because I really want to do a different one. But on a deeper level, I'm noticing, like, from this idea of enabling and codependency, that when I say no, when I say yes to someone who really needs a no, like really needs to stand on their own,
Mm,
when I say yes to them, I'm actually sending them a message that says you're not enough on your own.
mm,
You need help. You need me. And I think that goes back into this, my need to be seen and wanted and appreciated. And so it's been a real clarity for me that when I say no to someone, that's a gift to them. That gives them an opportunity to step up into their leadership or into
mhm,
their presence. And I'm totally willing to serve and support that, but I'm not willing to do it for them, or
mm.
or I should say, appear to do it for them, because I don't really think there is such a thing as doing it for them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've never heard it put that sacred no put so beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Uh, so 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 talk about how your career or your relationship to your career has shifted since we began work. What's
Yeah, when we started this, I was really in a leadership crisis, I would say. I've been a supervisor for many years. As you mentioned, I'm a community leader. I play a lot of leadership roles. And this winter, I pretty much experienced a midlife crisis of some sort where I was questioning everything. Um, and the way that came out was me thinking I don't want to be a leader anymore, that I don't like it. I don't like it. It's too hard. It doesn't mean anything. It's not worth the burden. Other people can do it as well as I can. Time to step aside and give other people a chance. I had all these stories, and and of course, at the same time, because I wasn't able to say no to things in a good way, I kept doing them, but I just half-assed it.
Yeah.
And then that led to feeling shame and feeling guilt, and not, now I'm really truly not doing enough, So what I've noticed from this process, and really specifically from the purpose process, was reconnecting into who I am on a deep level, on a soul level, and realizing that, in fact, like it or not, I am a leader. That's where my gifts lie, and it's in talking to people and communicating and listening and connecting people and helping to gather energy and helping to bring things to a decision and move things forward. That's what I'm good at. I'm not so good at like pounding nails and putting in staples and doing like detail stuff. That's not my strength, but I have these other strengths. And so really connecting into that and owning that has been well, frankly, it's been a huge relief, because I found that as a result, I was able to reconnect into work, reconnect into my Burning Man community where I'm a leader, reconnect into the Mankind Project where I've just taken a seat as a leader in training. And I'm in a shift now where it's not just that I was questioning, do I want to be a leader? And now I'm seeing, well, there is no question, I am a leader. And now the task is, how do I be a better leader? And by that, I mean more effective, but also how do I have more fun? How do I enjoy the leadership?
Yeah.
And that's, it has been fun. I mean, I had a great time at Burning Man this year as a leader. And those things are not always coterminous.
Yeah. Say more about how your experience at Burning Man was different than previous years.
Well, so I've gone to Burning Man for 18 years in a row. And so clearly I'm a little nutso about the thing. But people keep asking me, well, how was it? And I keep saying, well, it was the best burn of my life. And they're like, well, what was different? And my answer is me. I was different. I felt relaxed. I felt connected. I felt welcome. I was welcoming the difficulty, because Burning Man is a pain in the ass. There's a lot of hard things that happen and a lot of resistance that comes up. And this year I welcomed it. It was like, great, another problem. The generator's not working. Great, but we're going to figure this out. No problem. And I had an ease about it.
Yeah.
That first of all, I felt better. But also, it turned out it helped the others that I was working with to get stuff done in a way that they felt better. And that was a really shift. I mean, there's always some hard parts of that experience out there. But this year, I was very even and mostly just really up. Mostly just really, I felt really whole as a leader. Like I wasn't trying to get something. I was just doing my job and enjoying it.
Wow. Oh man, I want that for every leader, because it's like, I mean, it's something I'm also kind of learning too. It's like, wow, I can actually, I don't have to be just pitched forward, like must get everything done. I can joke and I can sing and I can dance and I can, have a smile on my face, and it doesn't mean I get any less done by doing that.
Well, I've heard, I don't even know if it's true, but I've heard that in wolf packs, that the way that the leader of the wolf pack is chosen is not by the toughest one or the most, purposeful one. It's the one that has the most fun. It's the most playful wolf. And I really tried to embody that this year out on the planet. Like, how can I be the most playful person out here? And that's a tall order. So I'm not saying I got there, but it was definitely a good effort.
I was gonna say, like, I can imagine it'd be really hard to be more playful than Gus or than Jordache.
Totally. Yeah. They're my senses. They're my playful senses. That's for sure.
Amen. So it sounds like your leadership has taken off in the MKP community, in the Burning Man community. Can you say more about leadership at work? How does the rubber meet the road there?
Yeah, well, I'm one of the senior supervisors in an office of 100 lawyers, and the last 3 years I've managed about 17 lawyers doing high-level felony trial work. Right now, I'm actually in a break from supervision. And so it's interesting. I'm not the leader in the spotlight right now. I'm not that one that's, out front. I'm not the boss. And yet I found that my leadership is more powerful because I feel closer to my people. Some of that distance that can happen with leadership is gone now. And I've really been able to connect back into the work at a staff lawyer level, and to be a mentor and a better colleague, and again, back to a good listener and a good supporter. And then that's unfolded in different ways to be able to allow me to show more leadership in the office, to have better input to our director and the chief assistant, and the other managers. I feel like I have more insights now that I'm able to share with the other leaders that enhance their leadership. So it's really juicy because I don't have to be the one in the spotlight to make a difference as a leader, and that's a new understanding for me.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. So let's talk about your finances. Anything shift for you there?
Always a popular topic. Well, we have 2 kids in private school in San Francisco, so that's probably about all you need to know about our finances. We're challenged by that. Grateful for their experience and also challenged. And in general, we live in San Francisco, which is, I think most people know, is extraordinarily expensive. So we often, I especially, but my wife and I have not been the best about prudence in financial stuff. And it's back to this inability to say no, question. And in the last 6 months, as I feel like I've gotten more grounded and present, and as I've been able to hold better space for my wife, Alicia, so that we can both be in that space, and especially I can help stabilize things when she's feeling unsteady. We've started to make some real choices, and one of it is we're going to rent out a part of our house. We've converted our bedroom into, it's not Airbnb, but a similar kind of long-term rental situation. And we've done a bunch of work down there to get it ready, which has also involved cleaning out a lot of stuff in the house, which we've lived here for 20 years, that needed to happen. So there was that financial decision, which definitely involves a sacrifice. We're literally moving out of our bedroom. And at the same time, it feels really good to make a clear choice that we know is going to help us and it's going to put us in a better position. And it took us a long time to get there. But once we made the decision, it felt so good. In other ways, I think more prudence and integrity around just budgeting and being really more mindful. We let our housekeeper go. We decided we could scrub our own toilets, So we made other choices to really, say yes to ourselves, to put ourselves in a better position that feels good and is less anxious.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm excited to hear that because as someone who's also struggled with finances, like I know the difference that like a fundamental shift in the structure makes. Like, oh wow, I just got this new client, or oh wow, for me putting in the structure of house cleaner was hugely liberating. Like oh wow, I just don't have to think about that. And that was something I probably never would have done, because it's just like, I spend money on that. I can clean my own toilet, But it makes a big difference because I can't do that good of a job.
Right.
Like professionals really know how to clean, and it makes more of a difference for my female roommates than it does for me. But
I hear that. Yeah, I don't know how long we'll last with that one. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Teenagers on toilets.
Yeah.
So, you're a man I know to have a very deep spiritual practice, and let's just call it like love affair with very large things, philosophy, spirituality, ideas. What's shifted for you in your spiritual life or spiritual practice in the last few months?
Yeah. Well, I love this, the definition of spirituality that the Benedictine brother David Steindl-Rast gives, which is, he said, spirituality is finding those things which make you most alive. It's aliveness. And so it doesn't, have to be specifically like a deity or a theistic force of some sort. It's more like, what are the things in life that really bring me zest, energy, and it can be everything from ideas of fairness and equality and justice and diversity, which is very important to me as a public defender, and aspects of contemplation and contemplative practice. And I spend a lot of work, I do a lot of time and work on contemplative practice, which for me looks like meditating every day. I sit every day. I have for a couple of years now. I'm an ordained Zen priest, so obviously it's close to me, and I mentor and coach others in that practice. But I love poetry. I read poetry every morning. I write poetry. And for me, the engaging with that level of non-logical, art is really important. But I put dance, which I love to dance, put dance and journaling and writing, and also bearing witness in whether in a political or in a non-political way, to be really important aspects of contemplative practice. So this is stuff that's been a huge gift to me. And what's happening for this year is not only is that deepened and enriched, and to where I don't have to remind myself to meditate. It's just a part of me. It's just what I do. It's obvious, and I'm grateful to have that kind of habitual practice. But I've also noticed a real joy in it, and the new thing this year is I've really been working to overcome my resistance to the idea of a personal universe, like a personal loving universe, which some people might call God, but it doesn't have to be that. But this sense that there's an order in a sense of the universe that knows me, that sees me and actually loves me. And this goes right back to that wound I was talking about, this sense that I have that I'm not worthy of love and I have to do something to get that. And this summer especially, I had a couple of experiences of really feeling unconditional love from another person. And what I've noticed is it's the same feeling I used to get from my mom before she died. And my mom was a challenging person in all kinds of ways, but she was unwavering in her love for me. I always felt it. And reconnecting to that, like I'm feeling my mom all over the place right now. And it's a very comforting feeling, and really sweet, and really, and what's been really interesting to me about that is that as I'm feeling that incoming support and love, and it goes back to the fitness, my kind of grasping neediness for things has really diminished. Like I don't have nearly as much of a desire to drink or to consume something or to eat a sugary treat or to go watch TV, because I don't feel like I'm missing anything as much. That hole, whatever that you call it, the hole that I had inside, feels much more filled. And I credit it to the spiritual practice, and especially to the digging in deep with the purpose and the soul work, because that was challenging for me. I definitely have a strong skeptical mind. I definitely have a rational mind, and I was challenged by that. Yeah. And seeing that resistance and softening to it has been a real gift. And I would describe my fundamental spiritual practice is when input comes in, when some triggering event comes in, there's only two ways to do it. One is to close up and hide, and the other is to open and be soft and present. And I'm getting a lot better at opening and being soft and present. And out of that is everything is changing.
Wow. That's great, man.
Yeah, it's really great.
So some of the things that you've mentioned, I want to talk about this idea of like the hole being filled, because I use that terminology a lot, that purpose work kind of reverses the flow of meaning, where, I hold, the metaphor I like is that we all have like this purpose-sized hole. And when that's not filled internally, you got to reach out and grab meaning and pleasure from other places,
Right.
It's grasping, kind of needing type thing. And it makes for a very good consumer. It makes for a very bad democracy. It makes for, a lot of things. But when the purpose hole gets kind of filled internally, it affects like a reversal of the flow of meaning. Like, you can then, be a giver, it's
Right.
used conservative, or Ayn Rand type word. Like you're literally, it's flowing out of you. Like you've got a vision, a mission,
Right.
There's something for you to do. Like there's a role for you to play with Enzo. There's a role for you to play with the bees. There's a role for you to play, with the Mankind Project. It's like, you're giving, you're not kind of taking kind of thing.
And giving from an unconditional place, like giving because I want to, not because I'm trying to get something.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a big piece for me.
Yeah. So I want to hear more about that, because you've mentioned like last, since we got back from Burning Man, that you've taken some hits and that there's a new capacity to deal with it, or new capacity to hold it. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. Without getting too specific, I've had a couple of conflicts at work that have frankly left me bruised. I feel like I wasn't treated well, and I took a risk that that scared people and angered some people, and got resistance from it, got feedback of that, and I knew I was taking a risk. I knew there was going to be a consequence, and as that resistance and that kind of blowback has come down on me, and it's happened. I've been really intrigued to find that it's okay. That I think last year that I would have crumpled. I would have just taken it on as another indication that I really do suck. That I really am not worthy, and that other people are seeing that. And this time, I feel sad, and I have some grieving I'm doing about how this has all turned out. And at the same time, I'm okay. I feel whole, and I feel glad that I stood up and that I did, that I spoke for what I believe in. Yeah. And I'm proud that I took a risk, because that's courageous and it's hard, and that hasn't always been true for me. So it feels like a growing edge for me.
Wow, that's great. Another way that I've experienced purpose, and I don't know if this resonates for you, is that it ends up being a kind of a background radiation. Like, with your purpose project, this thing that's kind of pulling you forward, even though you're dealing with a bunch of stuff right now, but like that there's this, I experience it as like kind of elevating the narrative a notch or two. If like life is playing between 0 and 10 and it's going like this, like my experience is that with a purpose narrative in the background, it goes between like 4 and 10.
Yeah.
It's like, the highs do not seem as dramatic and therefore less high, but the lows also aren't like, oh, I'm destroyed, like, oh, I can't believe this. Why me, pity party, victim, James Spiral.
I know that voice.
And I'm curious, like, if that resonates, you feel that at all, that like there's some kind of maybe a deepened faith in like kind of where the trajectory is headed.
Yeah. The word that comes to me is perspective. I feel like my perspective, as the larger the perspective that I can hold, the less all this little shit really bothers me. Right? And because it's small, it's a rock compared to the Grand Canyon. How upset do you get about that rock? And when all I'm doing is looking at my feet, well, then it seems like a big deal. But when I look up and see the sky, and see the expanse, then all of a sudden I can have the perspective, and that gives me there's relief in it. Honestly, it's a big relief. But also that's where I'm able to re-engage with my humor and see the cosmic joke, see the fun in this stuff, and not. My tendency is I can easily take things too seriously, and that's when I get in my head. I get grave, you know, stop smiling. And
Yeah.
it's pretty noticeable for me when I do that. And it's and to have that experience of seeing the bigger picture and not taking anything quite so seriously, which is not to say I don't care, but just not holding it quite so tightly.
Mhm.
That's really been a gift.
Wow. That's awesome, Dave. So I want to hear a little bit about just your experience with the overall, work, like, doing the exercises. I mean, were there any that really stood out as like, wow, that I saw something new for myself, or, anything that really kind of was, in and around a breakthrough, if you could share.
Yeah. Well, I think a big one was doing some of the visualization work and particularly this IntelliKey process of really talking to a kind of idealized version of myself. And I would say that I got a lot of great stuff out of the process, like what I learned from my interaction with this idealized self. But even more so was just doing the process, because as I mentioned earlier, my skeptic really came up in a big way, and I started to resist and say, this is bullshit. And it was fascinating to watch, because I ended up, I think, doing that process, several times. It was really fascinating to watch the evolution in it, and it was directly related to how open I was. It's back to the open or closed. When I'm open, all this cool stuff comes in, and when I'm closed, it all looks like crap. And so that I thought that was actually one of the most powerful transitions. And I also really enjoyed the I like writing. So a lot of the writing exercises and kind of essentially journaling and keeping track of stuff, that really worked for me. And the Vision Quest was really interesting. The preparation for and the exit of the Vision Quest were, for me, more powerful than the actual experience.
Mm-hmm.
The preparation in particular was really powerful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual experience was pleasant, but I didn't necessarily feel some huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
But then afterward, I could see how much had actually happened as a result of the larger process.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable sharing a specific from your Soul Quest? The talked about the postmodern bird. I thought that was kind of.
Yeah, no, I was walking down a trail. I was out in Livermore in Del Valle Regional Park, a beautiful spot, and crack of dawn, and walked under this tree, and I heard this bird singing, and it kept shifting from one song to another, and it turns out it's a mockingbird, and that's what it does. It's like one of those annoying car alarms. It's got like 20 different versions, but actually it's many more than that. And I sat and listened to it for a long time, and I took from that a message, because one of my gifts is around kind of translation. Like you said, I like to read big books, and I'm also pretty good at describing those books or describing the ideas and themes of those books to somebody that hasn't read the book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a good in-between guy, kind of a foot in both areas. And so that mockingbird really spoke to me as like, oh, okay, it was me. I mean, on some level, like kind of taking in input and putting it out in different ways so that it could be cognizable and legible and understandable to others.
Wow.
And, that felt, that was pretty spooky. It felt like a real visit from the universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I taped it, actually. I got a recording of it too.
Yeah. Because I found, it's not my job as guide to like put anything in, but as I was hearing that, and then shortly thereafter, you talking about this term of Gnostic and intermediary or integral facilitator, and like, I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit more about kind of this, the unique transformative process that might be emerging, and maybe the Willow Heart School as well. But it seems like there's some really kind of concrete expressions of the mockingbird kind of pouring forth, or that have poured forth in this process. Can you mention a little bit about that?
I am, and also I want to let you know I'm running a little short on time.
Okay. Great.
So, but the the Gnostic intermediary. This is Jung's term for kind of what I was just talking about. Somebody that can speak from both worlds, and some might call it a shaman is another kind of the native way of saying that. But I felt this was a real connection to purpose of connecting. Like I'm a good writer and I love to write poetry, but why? Why write? Why do poetry? And I really started to put that in focus of like, no, guys, I have a purpose around this. That this is a gift that I have and a giveaway I can offer. And so how I write and what I write about, what I choose to focus on, is really a way of serving my purpose. And it's clarified my writing and tightened it up to a level where, I've been doing a series about, I had an experience living on the streets in a homeless street retreat this summer, and I've been churning out, piece after piece around that. And it's not just that I'm trying to describe my experience, there's an opportunity to describe what life was like out there on the street to people that don't live on the street and don't want to, and to bridge those worlds. And I feel really good about that. I feel good about being able to be that conduit. And because it fills me. That's another one of those things that fills me up.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Last question, and you feel free to be brief. What was it like working with me?
Well, I love working with you, Brandon, and actually, one of the things I really liked about it was you held a firm line with me. You held me accountable. If I missed a call or I missed an assignment or I was late with something, I mean, you didn't let it slip, and that was a gift to me. Because I can imagine that, because we're friends and we have such a rich life together outside of this particular process, that I couldn't imagine you letting me slip on that, and you didn't, and I felt respect of that. And I felt challenged by that too, and it was it was great. I mean, I don't necessarily get that either at work or in life. Somebody that really hold me to task and really hold me to my commitments. And I really welcome that and honor you for that. But I also, you really have a great power to bless and to see. And I felt really encouraged by you at a lot of points. I had some real hard parts of this. I was pretty depressed for part of it. And I think, hard to say what was the purpose challenge and what was just stuff in my life, but there was definitely some hard periods. And at one point I wanted to quit, and you worked with me around that to see that there was an opportunity in that difficulty and to embrace it. And I'm really grateful for that. You held a steady ground and a steady centering line that enabled me to really dive into some scary stuff. And now that I'm through it, or at least through this phase of it, I feel profound gratitude. And I've already recommended you to many people, and I'll continue to do that because I think you have a gift for this, and it's exciting to me to see how your gift is unfolding in the world. I'm really proud to have worked with you.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you sharing so much with me and with everybody who's watching. Thank you.
Yeah.
Better
You
not.
got it, man.
All right.